Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree Net Podcast.
This, the penultimate episode of Third Degree, the podcast for 2025, has been brought to you by you and people like you, the listeners of this podcast who have joined us on patreon.com/third degree. If you like our work in the soccer community, why not join us? Patreon.com/third degree. Now on with the show.
Well, hello there, DFW soccer curious. Welcome to Third Degree, the podcast once again. With his lovely beard and coif haircut, it is Dan Crooke. Howdy, Dan.
I believe you mean receding haircut.
We're all part of the same. Well, no, Buzz isn't. And there he is, your hero, my hero, everybody's hero, editor, founder of thirddegree.net, and original soccer influencer with still all of his hair. Buzz Carrick, come in, Buzz.
I will actually point out that this is the first time that Dan's hair on the top of his head has been shorter than his beard.
Yeah, I got the winter trim.
His beard is longer than with the after the trim. Yeah, his beard is longer than his hair.
Yeah, I didn't want to get confused for a Santa impersonator. It just gets awkward when little kids come up and try and jump in your lap.
You had an official office business meeting or something, didn't you?
I had a couple. Yeah, a couple new suits and some business and some
Whoa,
and
Buzz! How much money would you pay to see Dan Crooke in a suit?
None. I'll just look at his Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I don't even know where my suits are or if I even have one still. It's been a decade since I needed one.
A natty suit. Excellent. Well, everybody's doing well. Hopefully, we got a little bit to talk about. I always think, this is going to take 20 minutes, and here we'll be an hour and 20 minutes later. But I think the big news of the day is Dante Seeley. No,
I mean, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
The Rapids paying $2 million for Dante Seeley, if that
Maybe
in fact
3.
is true.
Possibly.
Yes.
Maybe.
Is what in the world is happening? I don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But I also paid like $10 for packing tape today, so maybe that's a sign of the times. No, the actual news is that Dallas has signed one of its first new roster players for the 26th season, and it is the Israeli U21 player, Benjamin from Tel Aviv. He is going to count as a U22, Buzz. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, look, there's some interesting or confusing, if you like, things about this signing. Like all the time, the YouTube video looks fun. Okay, great. Hard to judge till we see him in person.
Do not trust YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like you never know. He was in Division 2 doing great things. They got promoted partially because of him, so he's been in Division 1. Okay, the confusing things come in the various flavors. That's now the 5th U22 initiative player. You can only have 4 in their case. That's also the 10th international, so that's a problem if you're trying to sign anybody else, not from the United States anyway. Also, this is a position that Paxton Pomykal plays. Now, either if Pomakal's kaput and we need a player to come in and take his spot, or the organization does not, okay, then why are you paying Paxton that money? Either way, it doesn't make any sense. It's also the same spot where you have Diego Garcia and essentially Kaique and Ramiro and Christian Kappas and probably Patrick Delgado. It's like this is a place where this club produces pipelines of these guys. So that's weird. But, like always, okay, we'll see what happens when he comes in, if he's any good or not. And that's the question will be at the end. It's just not something that was obviously a need. So it leans into this idea of like just getting a pile of players and throwing them out there and go, cool, good luck with that. So, hopefully he'll come good and be a decent player.
Was there any transfer fee pricing or anything mentioned?
There was not, but it was a transfer. So I would imagine that there would be some.
There was an early report that was 1.6 plus a 15% sell-on.
Yeah, FC Dallas never mentions in the official languages, so we'll just have to take that report as what it is. Unless
what about the unofficial languages?
Well, that's it. I mean, there's no language at all from FC Dallas. What Dan gave you was the unofficial. The idea that maybe it was 1.6. So, with the Cellon. So that seems a little high, but then again, Carrick was 4. So, that also seemed quite high. So,
it was high.
Yeah. At least this one didn't double at the last second like Carrick did. So, that number is, given he's a U22 initiative, that number makes sense because the whole point of that program is to pay more upfront in a transfer fee. He'll have a low salary and a low cap impact. The idea is that he would come good and you would sell him. So far, none of the U22s they've done have come good and been sold. The closest one that's being valuable probably is Patrickson, I guess. Carrick's still a little too young maybe to really be considered possibly for sale, but I mean...
Yeah, this to me, my read on it just screams it's another typical Dallas football factory purchase, hoping that they can convert a guy and sell him for a profit. And it's more about that than actually making the team better. If he turns out to be a guy that's good on the field and makes the team better, that's just gravy to it. But where's the buzzometer on this particular fellow?
This is the kind of signing that's so hard to know because it's impossible for me to judge the league he's in. It's not a league I can watch enough of to know the quality. I will say that they've had a not amazing track record of players from this particular area in league or neighboring leagues or whatever. You have Show who looked pretty good until he got sick.
Israel.
Well, or anyone sort of in the other players they've had that have come from non-major European countries that have come from these side countries. Is that the wrong word to use? I mean, look at Enisali having come out of damn God, where did he come out of? It's Czech Republic? Is that where he came out of? Enisali playing? I don't remember.
Romania.
Romania. I know he's Romanian, but the point being that if it's so far signings from not South America or not major European leagues have not been great. The hit record there has been kind of wishy-washy. So, I'm just going to have to just sort of be middle of the road, I guess a 5 in terms of excitement until I actually see him play.
So I want to ask this question because it's going to come back to something we talked about last week about the press conference. When they were talking about adjusting the team or making purchases, did they give any hint that this was a type of guy they were going to sign or a position they were going to fill as they saw as a position of need?
Well, they specifically mentioned midfielders and forwards. So, that's open to interpretation of
damn it. I thought maybe we had caught them in a hint that they could be lying about other things.
No. I think that there's some implications that other midfielders or forwards may also come. That this won't be the only move of the winter. So, no, they were pretty open that, pretty broad in their description of what kind of player they might be going after.
So how many center midfielders does this team have now?
Well, not enough because I think they're going to get one more. But that's a different kind of player. It's a different kind of central midfielder. Not specifically. The guys that will play the double pivot, it almost feels like there's one too many. But again, there's so many of them that are risk. Ramiro's going to be...
So this guy's an 8 or a 6?
8. It's box 8. But, you put Paxton Pommelko in that group. How good is he really? How healthy is he really? Ramiro, a year older. How much is he going to be worth? Carrick, a year older. But have we seen enough progression? Diego Garcia, I'm excited about him. But, Quill hasn't played him a ton yet. I mean, so there's bodies there. Paxton Delgado, can he play as that deep sort of 8 maybe and not so much as a 10? So there's lots of questions about who is your definitive answer in the midfield other than Christian Cabas we all feel really good about. So it almost certainly it's Christian Cabas and one of the rest of those people most of the time, it would feel like to me.
Since he's played a lot of left mid, I can't wait until they try to convert him to a left wing back.
You're speaking of Benjamin, the new signing?
Benjamin.
Oh, did I do it wrong? Benjamin?
Well, we don't do pronunciations. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
I'm making an effort, Dan. And I think you failed to notice that. All right, so he'll be here for preseason whenever that starts after the first of the year. Check that one off. So in the great in the great conversation about whether or not Andre Zanato was just telling a big fat lie about the fact that they were perfectly happy with their collection of center backs for next season, which caused all of us to choke on our cigarettes. We see this rumor that Henry Kessler, the center back from St. Louis, and I think he also played for the Revolution, is a free agent.
Yep.
Posted a picture on Instagram of the Frisco City Hall or something like that.
Yeah, and more pics today. Today he was at the Galleria and Whataburger. So he's definitely teasing us with all things North Texas.
So Dallas. Does that mean he wants to be? So what's the situation? Is he? I think I read somewhere else he's shopping. Like he's out essentially flirting with different MLS clubs, including his current club, St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, they let him go to free agency because his current deal was either on an expensive option or out. I can't remember which one it was. And there's 5 or 6 teams that he's talking to. You're talking about a player who is notably good for a center back at dribbling and passing, which is something that obviously is really interesting. Domestic player, was a former generation Adidas player. He's 27, so prime of career. There's a lot to like. And to be fair to Zanata, we told everybody in advance that you cannot take them what they say as definitive gospel. And as Dan and I were talking about before we went on the podcast, before we went on the air, what he actually said was, we're happy with our center backs. That's probably true. But if a guy like this guy calls, it's worth it to talk to him. He's good enough. So maybe you weren't out looking for one and one just sort of is falling in your lap, potentially being Kessler. So I'm not going to roast Zanata completely that he was lying 100% because I think that's slightly disingenuous. But Peter, you're absolutely right. As we always say, you can't 100% take it as a definitive line in the sand when they say things like they do, that they're happy with their center backs. So, that's where we are on that one.
My interest in Mr. Kessler is from his famous moment with the Revolution, which is really one of the great clips in MLS video history, which is late in the game. I guess they have the lead. He runs and he absolutely murders a ball out of the stadium, and on the run, because it's right near the touchline, as his opponent is going to go grab the ball, the extra ball to throw in, he grabs it and throws that ball into the stands and then turns around and runs away. Great stuff. So, Mr. Kessler, I'm in if you're interested in Dallas.
Dan, I don't know if you'd agree with me. I would consider him an upgrade over, since he's a right-footed guy, over either Ibiaga or Abubakar as your right center back.
I mean, especially in possession.
Yeah. And that's the thing we talk about with this team, right? They want center backs who can pass out. They want to be able to build out rapidly, but build out. And obviously that would allow you to put Shockmore outside right. So I can totally understand why Dallas would take his call and be interested. They haven't admitted that they have.
Why wouldn't they sign him?
I know. Why would you? Well, the thing would be the price. Like he was on 1.3 in St. Louis. So but now he's free. So it'll determine what you're going to get, what he would cost would be what he would cost for other teams that are going to be bidding. Now, Dallas has a ton of GAM, so you could basically sign him for effectively zero on your cap for this season. And then Ibiaga, theoretically, his contract is $800K would come off at the end of next year. And then you could allow Kessler to come up. He is in the prime of his career. So to me, there's no question if this is real that you try and get this guy. Even if you were happy with your center backs, you still try and get this guy if he comes to you like this.
Is he at Uragide good?
No, but he's good. He's got some different kind of qualities than Uragide a little bit, but he's in the same style in the sense that he can dribble around an attacker who's pressing. He can pass out of the back. Those are nice attributes.
How much is Uragide on? What's his salary?
Like $300 or $400K, like really cheap, which is amazing. But he had a buy price.
Problem.
Well, he got part of his buy price. I'm sure I would bet that Iragide's salary will go up pretty significantly each season that you keep him. I bet he had a backloaded sort of deal because of the upfront buy. But we won't know that until the MLSPA over the next couple of years.
Okay.
So, but sometimes it is, you get paid what you negotiated for. It's not necessarily the team's fault that you took a low number, but at the same time, Kessler's probably not going to get what he got before because he's had a little bit of an injury the last couple of seasons. Maybe hasn't played that. St. Louis went pretty bad defensively last year, partially because he was hurt. So I doubt that 1.3 is out there waiting for him again.
I'm so glad we were talking about this because something happened over the weekend that made me laugh out loud. And I was like, oh, I got to ask Buzz and Dan this question. So over the weekend, this ridiculous rumor ran around that Sergio Ramos, who is leaving Monterrey, the famous Real Madrid center back, and
so dirty.
So there was a rumor that Manchester United was considering signing him in the January window. And that turned out to be silly news, at least so far. But then it dawned on me. What about Sergio Ramos in Dallas? Now work with me here.
Yeah.
I realize he's old. I realize he's he's got a bit of a reputation, but he is a Mexican superstar. I mean, a Latino, not Mexican, Latino superstar. In Dan's rolling his eyes like he disagrees with me here. He is a notable name player, Dan. How about that? Let me phrase this in a way that we can find some common ground on.
Yeah, he is.
That would be of interest and a interesting marketing tool for this team. And he's still a reasonably good center back and probably would not be terrible in our league.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, the age at 39 would be a tiny bit worrisome, but he does keep himself in great shape. He has a famous name. Google says he was getting paid $4 million last year, which even in Monterrey, that's too much for a guy who's 39. If there's two big ifs for me. If the coach felt looking at tape, scouting him, that looking like he still has something to offer, and if you could get a reasonable number, I don't want a DP center back. If you could get him, down under, $1 million, so you could tam him in, you could probably talk me into it. I'm a big one on guys that can play multiple years. So, like, if you're going to make me pick, I would actually rather have Kessler for like 3 years than I would Sergio Ramos for 1 year. But
okay. All right.
I don't immediately hate the idea of Sergio Ramos.
Yeah, I'm not recommending it or saying that's what I want them to do. It just dawned on me it's an interesting idea from a lot of different angles, from the on-field and off-field angles.
Yeah, I don't know enough about whether he would be appealing to the Latino market or not. I really don't. I mean, I know who he is, and I know that he's played in Spain for a long time, and he did go to Mexico, but that doesn't necessarily mean he was popular there or excited.
So one thing about that, and this actually, this is kind of on Peter's point about the stadium. They're already selling it out, so who is there to appeal to?
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
For one season.
I think my problem is, though, Dan, selling out an 11,000 seat stadium doesn't mean that when it turns into a 20,000 seat stadium, it's going to sell out then. And you understand this just as well as anybody else. There's a level of responsibility. Well, that's not the right word. There's a level of work that they probably need to continue to do in terms of creating interest and excitement about this club, so that when the new stadium is done, or the new version of the stadium is done and open, that they don't find it difficult selling 20,000 seats 16 times a year, 18 times a year, whatever the number is.
No, for sure. I think there's a scenario where they back themselves into a corner, though. You sign a World Cup winner for a season. He goes, Musa gets sold. Suddenly you've got two MLS superstar level players that you need to find to maintain that momentum to then sell those 20,000.
That's a fair point. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point, that there is a whole lot of things that they have to consider and balance between now and then. But I also think part of that is that they've got to continue to figure out a way to make people interested in the team while they're in the middle of doing all this work.
Sergio Ramos drone show. Don't even need to sign him then. Save yourself $4 million.
Speaking of Musa, I saw my first report of a team in France trying to buy him today, but it was not from a source I thought worth sharing. But it's the first time I've seen it. So
So
I imagine
Paris
that
FC,
kind of,
wasn't it?
it was Paris FC. I think that kind of junk will start heating up here over the next year, but it wasn't from somebody I felt worth repeating.
Especially if he gets call ups to their remaining friendlies between now and the World Cup as well, too.
Yeah, and plays in the World Cup. Yeah, changed a lot.
Or not just plays in the World Cup. I mean, if but yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. Any other news or rumors or any other movement buzz on Buzz's birdies running around out there talking about any other players?
Yep. Yeah. Well, let me first mention something. I wanted to get in on the young. Let me see if I can get it right. Benjamin. Gosh, Benjamin. I'll work on it. Benjamin was that. This is the first contract announced by FC Dallas with the new calendars. His deal runs through the 28/29 season, and then he has options through the 30/31 season. So it's the first time. It's just interesting. It's the first change in language of the new contract lengths. So that's kind of cool.
Sorry, just hearing the word 2031.
I know.
Just seems so Jetsons.
It's just bonkers. Yeah. Man, it doesn't feel like it's that long, but then I'm really old. So, so rumors. Well, we've said all along that they needed a 10, and I do hear chatter that they're actively in the market for that. I'm actually a little surprised that maybe we haven't seen a leak about someone they might be talking to or people's they're talking to. Like, 'cause usually we see, like this winter, the Benjamin is the first player we saw linked to the club, and it was true. We haven't seen any other players. Usually there's 8 or 9 players that get linked, and we get one real one. So I'm surprised there hasn't been more, number one. But I do think that they are actively after the 10, and I hear they're after the 10. So, hopefully that was one of the players that they meant when they said we're close on a couple of players. Hopefully Benjamin was the first one. I'm struggling with that name. And hopefully this other guy will be the second one, because I don't think he meant Kessler. I think Kessler is falling into their lap if they really are talking to him or not. So the people I know around the team were like, what? When I brought it up. And so people, they were looking at it on his thing, and we're trying to find out how real that was. So I think that's probably about it, though. The 10, and then this guy is probably going to be it. Other than kids, I hear some movement on kids, but that'll be when we, at the end of the podcast, we'll talk about North Texas, and I'll throw a couple things in there for that. But with FC Dallas, I really think it's all about that the playmaker, the fulcrum,
Yeah.
And then you have to ask yourself questions about, in the system they're in. At that point, maybe you need like a reserve striker, but that's not something that would be earth moving. And maybe you can even just use a draft pick on that. That's not, you just need a third guy in case of injuries or call ups, or, especially when you have Anderson Julio and you have Sarver, it's not life shaking.
So you mentioned earlier, when you were mentioning Benjamin, the fact that he's going to take up an international slot.
Right.
So if they are out looking for and excuse me if you said this, I'm assuming this 10 would end up being the second DP on the team.
Yeah. That's what I understand.
Okay. So what are they going to do? I mean, most DPs are international players.
Yeah, they are.
More times than not.
Yep.
So let's run through the list of the current international players they have. Would they either A, have to go out and trade for an international or buy an international slot, or B, is there somebody currently international slot used that they could open up? I'm assuming Enesali is probably the player that actually helps clear out a few of things.
They'll just sign Gio Reyna and it'll be fine. Well, that's the thing, is that this young Israeli midfielder, Benjamin, is a U22 initiative, and they now have 5. So they have to get rid of one. And those guys are all internationals. So getting rid of one of those guys is going to get rid of an international spot.
All right, so let's run through those.
Okay, sure. So just from the top of my list, this is not in order of importance. Lucius Deedson, the Haitian winger, is 1. Paxton Delgado, 2. Giovanni Jesus, 3. Kaik is 4. Petar Musa, 5. Again, not in order of importance. Ramiro, 6. Enesali, 7. Irigide, 8. Alvaro Augusto 9, and this new player is 10.
So getting rid of Enesali solves two problems. It clears up
It
a
does.
U22 and an international slot.
Yeah, which is why I wrote that one of the priorities this winter was getting rid of him. But you could also say something like, well, what if the talk about Giovanni doing gangbusters for the last 2 months turns out to be slightly disingenuous and a chance to try and sell him by telling everybody how great he looks.
Or to your point, it could be an in-league trade or buy or purchase, and it's an American.
Could be. Or anyone with a green card. It's also true that any one of those guys could have gotten a green card in the last 4 months, that we just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like last year, Martin Paz was a big surprise when he came back with a green card last season. So, someone that's been here for a bit, like a Giovanni who's been here for 3 years already, or, any number of those players on that list could have been really excited about. I mean, Lucius Dietzen will be very difficult for him to get a green card because he's from Haiti, which is not my opinion. It's just the way the world is right this minute. We have to admit that. So, but the rest of these guys, there's no reason why any one of them, Kike or Ramiro probably weren't here long enough, but Patterson's been here long enough. And Asali certainly been here long enough, although he did leave on a loan for a bit. So it's very possible that there will be some adjustments. We're just counting based on as things are, as we know them, as we learn information later that changes these things. So, and yes, they could just trade for another slot, but they already have 10, which is already 2 more than normal, 2 more than the baseline. So really getting a third one would be kind of silly, but throw an extra one.
Using real world logic and thinking and reason, is there a player who you would go, oh my gosh, that's the guy I wanted you to get for this position?
I really off the top of my head don't have anybody. I wouldn't hate the idea of trying Glad from Vancouver, since coming back from injury, he didn't get back into the lineup. And they may have a little bit of cap problem. So I believe he's Scottish. Dan, is that right? Glad, isn't he Scottish?
Ryan Gould.
Oh, golly, I left it. Glad is the center back. Sorry, Gold. Yes, that's who I meant.
Yes, he is a sweaty sock.
Glad is the RSL center back. I got those names mixed up. My bad. Ryan Gold that's an internal to the league guy that I don't hate the idea of. If again, like their scouting of him in the playoffs and such was that they felt like he could produce, then I would buy that. But that I don't think he's domestic, so that doesn't help that problem. Outside of that, you're looking outside the country, and then there's 10,000 players out there. I would lean in towards South America just because that's where Zanata buys things. So that's about all I can do for you at this point.
All right. Well, it's only slightly disappointing. I was really hoping you were going to pull out a big flashy name for me to get excited about.
Gio Reyna. Just kidding. I don't really have anybody for you.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Anything else FC Dallas focus that we'd like to talk about or discuss?
Well, just to sort of mix it in with North Texas SC, because that's related, is like I'm getting nibbles that some people are, coming and joining. And sometimes I wonder if the people telling me these things aren't just hoping that that's what's happening versus what's actually happening. But I did put out my list of homegrown college targets, and I think they'll probably go for at least one, if not two of those guys, but that's about it. Anything else past the 10 and maybe this out of nowhere Kessler, I don't think that was in the cards necessarily. So after that, I think it's not, that's all the big moves. I think anything else would be bottom end of the roster moves.
Okay.
Not to disappoint you, but I don't like, why would you?
Oh, Buzz, my expectation levels are set relatively medium right now. So
yeah, well, they don't need a wing because they're not playing with wings. They're playing a 3-5-2. They're set at wing back on one side. The other side is injured. So that might be the only thing that you would want to look at would be like, do I need to get a right wing back because of Giovanni and Newman, or has this miracle center back come out of nowhere and all of a sudden I can just put Shackmore back out there? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's it. They just got an 8, which was, I might have been more interested in a 6, but they went for an 8. So, okay. I think it is at this point, it is what it is, right? I mean, there's only 4 open spots left, and 2 of those are, or maybe one of those is on the supplemental roster, and we already know that one of them is going to be, or we're pretty sure one of them is going to be this DP10. So there's not a lot of room left.
All right. Camp opens the win.
Oh gosh. Have they said? We think it's February 10th ish.
Okay.
I'm sorry, January 10th ish. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right.
Play
I knew it was right after the
February.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, this last weekend was Paxton's wedding in Cabo.
Yeah, good for him. Exciting.
So he got that knocked out.
Hopefully he didn't get hurt.
Hopefully not. All right. So the other thing before we get off the burn real quick is I started this joking about the fact that in the news today was Dante Seeley getting moved for an insane amount of money. But the other thing that I saw today that I just made my head spin is the fact that one Justin Che is back floating around and has apparently signed a deal to play for Red Bull, New York Red Bull, not Salzburg or Leipzig.
Oh, is that done? I just thought he was linked to them. Yeah.
No, I'm seeing now that it is a done deal and that he will be back in the league playing with Red Bull. And, I remember going back and forth and being very frustrated with that young man because he was a guy who was determined to go to Europe, even when we all knew it was the worst possible path for him based on what we knew about his skill sets, his abilities, his readiness levels. It was a weird deal. We were all very frustrated at a time when Dallas needed a center back and he showed some promise that he decided to skip town, and yet he did, and then he kind of disappeared off the face of the earth, and now here he is back playing in Major League Soccer next season.
Yeah, his path has been fascinating. I don't think there's much chance he would come back to Dallas. He burnt bridges a little bit here on his way out. To be a little bit fair to him, he had gone to Germany every summer when he has as a kid and trained over there and spoke German and has some German ancestry, but he really wanted to get over there fast and carried himself like he didn't need to be in Dallas. And that's kind of what burned his bridges a little bit. But yeah, it didn't work out for him, and now he's coming back. So, good luck to him in New York. They have a new coach up there too, the younger Beasley. So it'll be good for him to play under a demanding, I assume Michael Bradley will be, I said Beasley, I meant Bradley. Michael Bradley will be a demanding coach, I would imagine so, for effort.
Yeah, it's wondering. I'm curious how humbling his European experience has what it's done to him, if at all. Maybe not.
I don't know. His dad still coaches for FC Dallas ECNL, as far as I know. His brother jumped over to a youth club in Europe somewhere, but I don't know where. At this point, it is what it is. He did not perform all that well here before he left. I mean, he showed promise, but he never fulfilled that promise here. So,
well, I maybe I'm wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong. I always felt like when he was playing for Dallas, he played like a player who didn't want to be here.
Yeah, eventually he did. In the original days, he didn't. One of the reasons why they signed him out of the academy was because, he was aggressive about wanting to be with the North Texans and FC Dallas. He wanted to sign, and they liked that, and they signed him. But then after he played well for North Texas, and then he went to
Bayern on that loan, right? Yeah. He was one of the players in the loan group.
Not the loan. No, he went to the winter training thing.
The winter training group, right?
He's the player that killed the Bayern agreement because Bayern wanted to buy him, and Dallas said no because they sold Chris Richards for too little money, and so they said, "Well, this time we're not going to sell you for the same cheap money. If you want him, you got to pay whatever it was." And Bayern was like, "Why do we have this deal with you then?" And so they canceled the deal and went somewhere else. And now they have a deal with LAFC that I've never seen anything come out of either. So, that I don't know whether that part is why people in Dallas are not super excited about him or not, whether it's just his general attitude, but it did not go well when he left here. And it was the turning down of that deal that made him mad. And sort of, that's one reason why he was aggressively trying to get out and took that deal to go to, I want to say Hoffenheim. Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just remember, everybody in the Rhine, it is your responsibility if Red Bull comes to Frisco next year to boo him every time he touches the ball. Do I have that right, Dan?
Yeah, I look forward to a very Americanized Dallas reject. Dallas reject. Hello, hello.
All right, let's move on. Big weekend for Dallas Trinity out at the Cotton Bowl as one Lexi Missimo scored her first goal back since her long time off. Good for her.
Yeah, she did one sub and then one start and scored. So it's exciting. Carolina was in second place and probably had more of the chances, but Dallas's defense played pretty tight, kept them out. Keeper made a couple nice saves. Missimo got a good goal, and they held on after that. There was one sequence where Riley Foster made like 6 or 7 straight saves, and it seemed like because it was one of those poke where the ball just wasn't going in, like crap goal, as the Men and Blazers guy would say. But they managed to hold them out. It was chaos in the moment, but huge win. Trinity's up to 4th place now on 19 points, and they have their last game before the break is at 2:30 on Saturday against the first place team, Lexington SC. So that's a big heat check on how good Trinity really is. Playing the second place team and the first place team back to back to close out the winter part of the season, fall part of the season, if you will. So I would expect Trinity to make a couple moves in the winter break because they're going to lose at least one of their academy players, maybe 2. They'll probably have some players that they bought or signed that are not working out. They'll probably try and pick up some people that'll come out of the NWSL or come out of college. There's no college draft. It's all free agents, so I would expect some changes.
I think they're actually set to keep all the academy players because they've only got a couple this year.
Oh, I thought Moore and Seeley are both leaving. Maybe I was wrong about that.
Seeley is not leaving in the winter. She'll be staying through the whole season, and I think Moore was this.
I thought someone told me Moore was leaving for spring ball for USC.
But Moore is a bit of a different one because she's not local, so I think that's up in the air.
They're playing pretty well, so it's a fun game. If you get a chance to go out I'm going to try and go out this weekend and watch that. So it'll against a really good team, really good test. They need to figure out how to get Amber Wisner back into midfield. That's a problem still. Having to use her at center back.
What was attendance like this weekend?
2,500.
Oh, good.
Yeah, about on pace. They need to get back over 3 grand, really. But I don't know what to tell anybody about where they are. They're pretty flat right now. That mid 2000s hasn't really moved much another.
Talking about the Cotton Bowl and attendance and so forth leads us into the conversation about the event that Atletico Dallas held Saturday, ironically, right after the Trinity game, and some of the news and announcements that they've made. And something very interesting came out of that, which was that they have acquired a building in Exposition Park. Now, I'm just going to say this because I thought this was very funny. Was this last week when I asked you guys where Expo Park was?
It was when you asked me, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because I knew I had heard the name Expo Park or Exposition Park before, but I thought that was down in Trinity Groves. And no, it's actually the little area on the far east end of Deep Ellum, between Deep Ellum and Fair Park, right there, kind of by where City Futsal is and the group of flags and the I think it's like 5-point intersection, all of that stuff. Was funny because you know who else didn't know where Exposition Park was?
Who's that?
Andy Swift.
Oh,
because we were talking about it on Saturday, and he was like, "Where's Exposition Park?" And I was like, "I'm glad you asked because I didn't know either. I've lived here my entire life, and I didn't know where it was." So, but anyway, the point being all of this is that they announced that they are acquiring an existing building that they will turn into a destination restaurant, bar, and also have a small-sided field attached to, so you can play. And they intend it to be a pre and post-game gathering point, and they describe it as a 10-minute walk from Fair Park, which I think sounds right if I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it's directly across the road. It's opposite the dart stop.
The mock-ups of the place look fantastic. I'll put it as the cover of this podcast. It's fun. It's like the venue looked great. The idea looks great. I think this is tremendous.
The best thing I saw out of the photos from the event was the giant banner they had hanging on the wall that says Atletico plays for Dallas.
Yeah, right.
I thought that was farting fantastic phrasing. I really, really liked that.
Yeah. My only tiny bitty nitpick of the mock-up is that the right end of the field has no wall, and there are people with eating and drinking tables right behind the net. So that'll be fun when balls come flying off of the field at 60 miles an hour. I'm sure there will be a wall there in reality, or a net or something. But
a net, yeah.
I mean, what a cool venue, like to be able to come and have, what it reminds me of, Peter, this is how old school you and I are, is the little bar next to the
Old Mill.
When we would go after the games and Durr would be there and a player or two would be there and you could hang out with them and talk to them and have a beer with them after the game. This reminds me of that in terms of launching and get yourself in the community and being there for your fans. And I'm sure they'll have, meet and greets with players and all kinds of stuff. I'm putting more words in their mouth there. I'm just assuming they're going to. I mean, why wouldn't you? And then especially post game, maybe not before the game, but post game you can. And the location is perfect for the Cotton Bowl, so super awesome, man.
Saying about that banner, the Atletico plays for Dallas. We've obviously said a couple of times that they kind of jumped the gun on the announcement. I want them to own the bit. Change that banner to say Atletico will play for Dallas. But like make it red crayon like the run sheet, and then as it gets closer, it gets faded and faded and faded, and eventually it's Atletico plays for Dallas.
I mean, look, I think there have been some things that they've done to modify and change and course correct some of the messaging and the way that they launch this thing that have been smart. I mean, they clearly have started to figure out or really try to hone in on what their audience is going to be. And I'm very curious to find out what the long-term plan is for the club. My guess is that they are determined to figure out a way to make the Cotton Bowl their long-term home, because there's just so many reasons to try to figure out that as a solution from a cost point of view.
If the city's going to basically give it for free, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I would definitely say midterm solution. Long-term makes me think, 20 years. I don't know that would be the case, but, like 1 to 7, 8, even 10 years, I would buy.
But here's the question I have for you, Buzz. If you can get 15,000 people in the Cotton Bowl, and you can make that a functionally operating, profitable business, why would you put yourself under the gun to build your own facility and the massive amount of expense and hassle that comes with that?
Well, the same reason the Hunts did. The question would be the long-term viability and revenue control. I mean, there is a optics question of 15,000 people in the Cotton Bowl, but the other is how long does the city let you have full revenue control of that venue? And that doesn't include just your games, right? That becomes other things that you bring into your stadium, whether they be, other events or concerts or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you want to have every, and I'm going to use the word minor league owner here because we're still talking about soccer. Every owner of a soccer team in the Metroplex that I've talked to talks about the idea of revenue control, that like, it's not just as simple as I need a place to play. It's about all those revenue streams. Like, remember, broadcasting is not the bell cow for soccer yet. It's about tickets, merch, drinks, in-stadium advertising, all that stuff is still the core. Parking. Remember, there was free parking at Toyota in the early days to get until it got sold out, and that went away. So, like, that idea of control of all that still really matters. Now, again, do I want to spend $250 million of my own money? No. We've talked about the fact that these two guys that own Atletico are not they're not billionaires, right? They're going to have to get partners. They're going to have to get a city involved. So short to mid run, in my opinion, combo makes a lot of sense because you're at least going to have the city work with you, as Dan mentioned, like the city's working with Trinity. But remember, the city of Dallas is working with both of those teams off the court with things like MoneyGram going to Atletico and the Wings practice facility, which is planned to incorporate Trinity at some point. You know what I mean? They want to keep those teams, so they don't want them to run off to Frisco or McKinney, you know,
or
so
Mesquite
like,
or
Mesquite or whatever. So like,
maybe not
yes,
Garland.
Short to midterm, Cotton Bowl makes a ton of sense. Long term, it makes much more sense to be in your own venue that you can control. And that's what really matters in that level.
I think to your point earlier, you mentioned profitability. That is a very foreign term in soccer. The number of teams that are truly profitable, you could count on your fingers and toes.
True. Right. Yeah, I think
the U.S. works different though for that.
It does, but I think in terms of losing the least amount of money and growing the value, because that ultimately is really what they're trying to do, is grow the value so they can sell it and make money from the sale of it versus annual revenue. So that is of interest to me. And so the idea that they are going to go out of their way to get into real estate, to acquire a building, to create something, because I'm going to keep saying this until everybody else buys into it and starts saying it too. The whole point of the only way this works for mostly Atletico, but this applies to Trinity as well, is you've got to make going to the Cotton Bowl cool again. You've got to make it 1960 when everybody wanted to go to Fair Park to watch the Dallas Cowboys in the Cotton Bowl, or go to the Cotton Bowl for the Texas OU game. That's if those two organizations can figure out a way to make a substantial number of people want to go do and have that experience, then they've won this battle. And if part of that is buying this building and creating this destination point, that's a really interesting idea. I would have thought you would have tried to have done something inside the Fair Park grounds, but if you can't do that, maybe immediately adjacent to it is the next best thing.
Yeah, the city's not going to go for that. But I don't think it's a coincidence that, look at the actions of Trinity and Atletico. Both of them are concentrating on training grounds and offices for their team and those kinds of, in like the bar and restaurant in this case. But we know Atletico is also looking at training facilities. They're putting all that first because they know the Cotton Bowl is a good situation for them to the short to midterm, right? They'll worry about a stadium much further down the line. They have these much more short-term survivable issues at hand. They want to have facilities for themselves to train, for their academy to train. You can have it out for games on the weekends and other people to borrow and rent, and that's again a revenue stream for you. And that's true of both of those clubs. Trinity's trying to get the same thing going at the Wings facility. So you can see where the short-term priorities are with these two clubs that feel like the city of Dallas is working with them in a positive way at the Cotton Bowl for the bigger venue.
Man, so much runway.
It's so different. Isn't it so different than when we were 30 years ago now, when the city of Dallas was not all that friendly to the Dallas Burn. I mean, they let them rent it, but it wasn't like they didn't have that partner feel, I don't think, that the city of Dallas does now. It doesn't feel the same to me. Maybe I'm crazy about that, but there's a reason why the Hunts ran off to South Lake and then tried to go to McKinney and eventually went to Frisco right away. They weren't getting the same treatment from the city of Dallas.
Yeah, working with the city on the Cotton Bowl is not like becoming a tenant at Choctaw or anything like that. It's
different animal.
It's a very different animal, and the requirements of your responsibilities differ greatly. The expense that you have to put in is bigger than it is at those places, et cetera, et cetera. So, or different than those places. So we'll see. I mean, we've got an entire, what are we still 18 months out from this thing being an actual kick a ball kind of thing?
No, that'll be February next year. Not 2 months from now, but a year from now, basically.
So 16 months out, maybe 13 months, 14 months out, something like that.
Yeah. Cause the USL has not done anything about changing their calendar. So it'll be February of 2027. Yeah. Yeah.
As a USL championship team.
Yes. Yeah. Cause the Atletico is definitely starting in the USL. They tell us they're definitely starting in the USL championship in 2027.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing they will have to get sorted is the field. That field right now is atrocious.
Yeah.
I don't know. They resurfaced it like 3 weeks ago and it is not sunk in. If you look at the pictures I posted from the Trinity game, you can see chunks of sand kicking up behind the girls ladies as they're running.
Then you get that fun part of Dallas Parks Department taking over the running of the Cotton Bowl recently, so it's going to look like Moss Park.
Yeah. Oh, God, I hope not.
Man, that would be a massive come down because for those who do not know, back in the Burn days, the Cotton Bowl playing surface was considered to probably be the finest soccer surface in the country.
Unquestionably. Yeah.
It was absolutely a putting green. It was perfect. It was.
I was talking to Paul Scott, he ran the line for the very first Dallas Burn game. He, did MLS Cup. He did it. I think he was a FIFA official. And I asked him about that. I was like, everyone around here always says the Cotton Bowl is like the best surface. He's like, no, legitimately, I've been on every MLS stadium up until 2016 from 1996. Best surface by a country mile.
Oh, it was. You wanted to just lay down on it and take a nap. It was so perfect.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was shockingly good. And it was even good after the Texas OU game. That's how good it was. It was such a good field that even after college football, the state fair crap that went on with it, it was still ideal and great in every way. So, any North Texas SC stuff that we didn't get to, Buzz?
No, I mentioned it just that they're on the verge of being a couple of moves related to like ex-players from the club, things like, oh, I hear this guy's coming back, I hear that guy's coming back. And I just always want to put a grain of salt on that because I'm not sure if people are just hoping those guys are coming back or they really are coming back. That's a weird place to be. But
just real quick, I don't think there's any amateur stuff to talk about, is there?
No.
Okay. A couple of the different facilities around town, Crossbar and Spectrum, have been hosting these small-sided tournaments with considerable cash prizes at the end of them. And both of them have been doing an interesting job in sharing that stuff, like highlight clips and stuff on social media. And I just wanted to compliment them because it's really cool. It really shows the community, the community of the sport in our area, and people, the number of people that are showing up for these games. The Crossbar one up in Denton, they were actually having paid attendance, and there was like a line of people at the gate to go watch this tournament be played. Essentially,
wow.
And it was for them was a qualifying 7v7 because you're obviously looking for players to build a local TNT team for next year's 7v7 tournament out in Carolina. That was really cool. And then the other night, I don't know if anybody else happened to notice this, during the Dallas Cowboy game on NBC, there was a return from commercial shot. It looked like a small drone was flying around inside a indoor soccer facility. That was Crossbar up in Richardson, right off of Central and Arapahoe, I think it is, which was kind of cool to see. It was like I did the whole Leo DiCaprio, hey, look, I know that meme right there in real life. I did that. I've been in there before. I know what that is. So I thought that was cool that got included on a Cowboy game.
That is cool.
And I think I've said this before. I'm going to say it again because you guys know I love kits and branding and all this stuff. The coolest thing that is going on in amateur Sunday League soccer in Dallas is all of the teams have a logo. They all have a brand. They've all taken the time to create this stuff for their teams. Many of them have social media accounts that post clips from their games, hype videos. And a lot of the logos and a lot of the kits are really, really good. I think
that is cool.
The DSA, Dallas Soccer Alliance, could do a way better job of promoting the fact that all of their teams, like not all, but the vast majority of their teams go way out of their way to create a brand for their club. And that's something that never happened back in the day with the old NTPSA when it had 5,000 players and, however many, almost 100 teams there were across 5 age groups and multiple divisions. We didn't have that back then. So to see all these clubs put all the effort into creating a brand, I think is great.
I think it's funny. I remember one of my teams way back when, we were all techie creative idiots. So for shits and giggles, we had a full brand and website and all the tried to give it the professional look, just kind of for fun. Now it's like, one of the upsides for generative AI is like the league I play in now, everyone's got a logo. It's
crazy, isn't it?
None of the people that do graphic design have like really had to have a hand in it. I think I vectored ours for our jerseys. But it's all prompts. It's all kind of just, it adds that element that, like you say, just wasn't there.
And some of it's really good.
Speaking of cool local brands, 40 SC won the UPSL again, as they do almost every season. One of the top amateur brands in town.
Good for those guys.
They're lifting more trophies as they always do. And one more tiny thing on FC Dallas news. I was just perusing the site to make sure we didn't miss anything. After the last podcast, Peter Dallas traded up for the 3rd overall pick. We haven't talked about that on this particular podcast since it happened. So Dallas now has 3 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick. So like they like those first-round picks, and by going up to 3rd, like that's a player that will hit and stick. I mean, that's like Farrington.
Is that because they need to restock North Texas?
Well, in part, but the 3rd overall pick is not a guy that will be with North Texas. The 3rd overall pick is going to be in MLS. You don't go that high and not have that player be on your first team.
Okay.
Those later 2 first-round picks.
Any good center backs in the draft this year?
Yeah, of course. There's the most value in the draft is going to be either in center backs or goalie, or probably wide wing like Sarver. You're not looking for a 10. You're not probably looking for a 9. Farrington's a rare example of an MLS quality striker coming out. Maybe like a holding mid kind of guy. You can get that kind of value in there. So, you can really augment your dudes in that way by getting a piece that can turn into a quality like a Ryan Hollingshead, or a Farrington. We don't know about Sarver yet, but guys that can compete at the MLS level and burn a lot of minutes for you at the number 3 overall pick if you hit.
All right, and to close it up, any chance we've heard anything else about the new home shirt kit coming out?
It'll have sleeves of some variety.
God damn it!
Well,
Dan.
we did learn what template it was, Dan. We did learn that, but that's not earth shaking. So,
which is
same as the World Cup with the big stripes and the holographic Adidas logo,
not the trifoil.
But this year is very. That's possible. This year is going to be a little bit different. They always get a authentic cut similar to the elite teams, but they never get the same, like the fabric, the technology. This time they will actually get the new Climacool Plus, which is going to be the really expensive jerseys at the World Cup, not the ones that are in like JD Sport and Dick's.
All right. And I assume that's going to be announced or revealed at the Cocktails and Cleats event that they sent out the invitations for last week.
Usually, yep.
Okay, very good. All right, I got nothing else.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
No podcast next week because of the Christmas holidays or Jewish holidays or Festivus.
The holidays.
Kwanzaa. Yeah, I just stood up open with the holidays. I said Christmas, and then I felt like I had to be inclusive. This, the penultimate episode of Third Degree, the podcast for 2025, has been brought to you by you and people like you, the listeners of this podcast who have joined us on patreon.com/Third Degree. If you like our work in the soccer community, why not join us? Patreon.com/Third Degree. We hope you've enjoyed the podcast.
All right. Well, then, happy holidays to the two of you.
And you as well, Peter and Dan.
Dan, thank you.
Thank you. And happy days in general. Yeah, Boxing Day, best day of the year.
And Buzz, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. And happy holidays. Much love. Big hugs to you, DFW Soccer Curious. We will speak to you in a couple of weeks on another episode of Third Degree, the podcast.
Better hope for a centre back as a present.
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.